3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the AfroMattt Show, the only podcast brought to you in part by the Taliban and ISIS.
No, I don't agree with that. That's a lie. That's fake.
Once again, we are here with my co-host and best friend, Nick Mick Clownface. I don't know. Nick,
Thanks,
what's up,
man.
bro?
Hey, bro.
Nick, once again, is late to wake up. Nick, how are you feeling?
I'm watching OG Naruto right now.
Mm.
I was already going to bed late, and then I started Naruto again. Never seen it, and it made me cry yesterday. I already told you.
Yeah.
But it's good shit.
Yeah, it's a
Except
tearjerker.
it's cringe, because in the first Naruto, more than Shippuden, he's like, every 2 seconds, he's like, believe it!
Yeah.
I'm like, God, this is cringe.
Is it the same girl in both ones that voices
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I'm gonna be Hokage one day. Sounds so weird. Let's see. Where are we at? It is
The beginning.
Yeah, let's just start at the beginning. We don't even know what we're talking about yet. Just start at the beginning. Nick, do you have a story time? Go ahead.
All right. Here's my story time.
Okay.
So I'm driving down the road, and this guy makes the same turn as me, and I'm like, that's weird.
Sus.
And then he makes a second same turn as me, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna murder this guy. And then he turned off. That's the end.
Ah, interesting twist.
Interesting.
I like the part where you were gonna murder him. Wait,
Yeah.
is that the whole story?
That's the whole thing.
Is that based on a true event?
That's based on a very true event.
Nick,
last
time we were on the podcast, you clicked into action into murder mode. Remember?
Yeah.
When you were home alone, you heard a noise, and it turned out to just be a ghost.
Yeah, I think I'm just a schizophrenic, and I don't believe it yet.
Dude, do you believe people are gang stalking you?
I don't think I'm being gang stalked. I just
my
brain anytime like all it takes is one turn when someone's following me, and I'm like this person wants me dead.
No, if it's a police officer and they follow me for more than like one light, if they follow me for the light, then I'm starting, my palms are getting sweaty. I'm starting to like physically like have shakes and twitches. And even though I know I have nothing in my car that's illegal, no contraband, I don't have any of my crack pipes in there. That I keep those at home. Even if he's following me, I go out of my way when a cop's follow me. I'll go into like a gas station and just pump my full tank of gas. I'll put like $3 on my tank, just to look like over. Yeah, just to like not be in front of the cop car. And then like maybe I'm schizophrenic because I think that the cop thinks that I'm avoiding him, so he'll turn in because he knows that I know that I have contraband on me, but I don't, because I know.
Is it weird that I think like every time I see cops, and I've been told by like the cop friend to not do this, but every time I see cops, I'm just like, I want to wave to them, and he's like, don't wave to them. He's like, they immediately will think that you're doing something bad if you wave to them.
Yeah, dude. Man, I every time I drive by a cop, I always give him an extra long stare. Just subconsciously, like my eyes, like I'll keep my face forward, but I'll follow them with my eyes.
No, I kind of want to just look in. I like want to see like their little computer and like their dash cams.
You know they're playing Minecraft on that shit all the time, bro. They have a fucking XP farm that they have to keep track of.
They've got a fucking Minecraft server that all the cops are on, and there's so much drama in it.
Dude, I just imagine like the fucking like anytime they're following you and you see like, because you can see in your rear view when they're typing and shit. I just imagine like they're just like clicking away on the computer, and you just hear like hacker noises, just like he's like searching my account, my whole.
Us back.
Oh, what the fuck?
We can.
Okay, dude, I wanted to find like hacker like. Yeah, like this.
That's it.
And he's pulling up like the mainframe while he's following me.
You know what's funny is no OS of any sort actually sounds like this.
Yeah.
Unless you're at Disney World.
What even? This is so annoying. Like, listen to all the noises it makes. Imagine you're just trying to log into your computer and you have this like, lady.
Access granted. Oh, there it is.
He's downloading my, and I just imagined him just typing in my license plate number, and then all this just happens. He like pulls up my birth certificate. Have I been vaccinated? Have I got COVID before? Am I a super spreader? Just all pulling up, and then he has like a all this fucking. Have you seen that skit from Eric Andre where he's like pretends to be a Google? Let's see, Eric Andre. Yeah, wait. Let me show you this skit. This is a good one.
I'm from Google.
This is all the noises you see.
Yeah.
He just goes around scanning people. I love Eric Andre. This is the cop.
Google, show me this guy's balls, please. Sir, you have a little bit of poop inside your testicles.
It's so retarded. It's actually so
Google, show me her naked.
Google, show me her naked.
Enhance. Ma'am.
She slapped him.
Trust me. Trust me. You just have a little bit of poop in your colon. What's your email? I'll send it right over to you.
He's printing off. Oh god.
Can you take a dump on me? Not in a gay way, sir. Sir, I'm from Google, the website. I needed to poop on my mouth. It's disgusting.
I don't know how he stays in character for this. These skits, they're so fucking retarded. They're so retarded. Boop, 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 boop. Show me this
Google,
guy's. Google, show me this
show
guy's
me
balls.
her naked.
Enhance.
Damn, you have poop in your colon. He like hands her a piece of paper.
He prints off a piece of paper and pulls it from his forehead. Oh man, yeah, I love Eric Andre. Yo, if you have not seen Eric Andre, you gotta go watch it. It's so good. Every skit is somehow it gets more retarded with every skit, somehow. But I love it. Let's see. Do I have a story time? Okay.
Wait, you had another mild inconvenience, didn't you?
I had not a mild inconvenience. It was let's say a awkward interaction. Not a mild inconvenience, but an awkward interaction. So yesterday we went to this big event, and I'm gonna be honest, it was just hot air balloons. Like they just blew up hot air balloons, and then like pumped the fire and then deflated them. That's not the awkward interaction. I ran into this guy that I met, and tell me if this is relatable, right? But because I feel like this is a situation that a lot of people run into. I'm there, I'm walking around, and I have like a recognizable look because I'm like a white kid with an afro, right? And so I'm walking, and this guy is sitting down. He's like, "Hey," I'm like, "Oh," I kind of give a look, and then he's like, "Hey," and he like points to me, and I'm like, "Me?" He's like, "Yeah," and then I'm like walking, like, because I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of weird." So I walk a few steps, and then I turn around, and I see him getting up. And he's like coming to approach me. I'm like, oh, I have to know this guy now, right? Mm-hmm. So he comes up and he's like, "Hey man, how's it been?" I'm like,
and you don't know him.
He has a face. His face is so familiar, and I know I went to high school with him, but I cannot remember his name for the life of me. So I'm talking. We're talking about like.
Oh my god! And you're trying not to let him know that you don't remember his name.
And he has a name tag on, or he has a VIP card on, and it's like he's moving like this, and it's like flipping. I'm like trying to read the name every time but subtly try to get his name, and I just like the whole time I avoided his name. Like, hey man, it was nice meeting you, or hey dude, how's it going? You know.
Wait, which guy was it?
Okay, I don't know. That's the whole. I don't know
Wait,
who this man
him.
was.
Describe him.
Okay, he had a beard, but I don't think he had a beard in high school. He had scruff in high school.
Was he in our class?
No, he mentioned. So I was doing process of deduction. He said that he has been working at his place for 4 years after he graduated. So process of elimination, 2021 minus 4, graduated 2017, graduated 1 year above us. And then I'm like, damn it! Now I can't look in the yearbook because I only
have glasses.
Yes.
Was he kind of chubby?
Yeah, stocky.
Did he remind you of like an Apple fanboy?
Perhaps.
I have one guy in mind.
I think it is that guy that you're thinking of. Nick disappeared. Is it, every time you turn away, you have a green screen filter on that you just disappear. But Nick, I know who you're talking about, and
it's not that guy.
No, I think it is that guy, but I don't know his name. And I was trying to think, like, does he look like a Derek? Does he look like a...
Check out your Insta right now.
My Insta?
Just DM'd you.
I think...
AfroMattt.
Because I know the guy for sure. Oh, no. It's not that guy.
Oh,
no.
That's who I thought it was.
No, that guy's... It's not that guy. He's shorter than that guy. But I remember that guy. I did not like that guy that you sent me a picture of.
No, I didn't either.
I did
he
not
was
like
one of those. He was one of those. Hey, where's my hug?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, he's one of the...
I literally saw him say that multiple times.
God. Yeah. Isn't it weird that they glossed over the fact that our school almost got shot up?
Yeah, they tried to hide it.
Yeah,
multiple times. Not on just one occasion.
Yeah. And it's like no one even... I was at school, and I didn't know it was about to get shot up. Right? So the guy who planned the event, right, told his best friends to wear red, right? Didn't he do that? And he wrote specific people's names on bullets and came to school with a gun, and they stopped him at the door, and they're like, hey, man.
What's up?
Cool. That's not cool,
yeah,
bro.
This isn't cool. In fact, you're expelled, and we're going to bring you in.
Actually, I was on the bus one time, and that guy was following me. Like, on the bus.
Maybe you were one of his targets.
He had picked up his sister, and he was just following me. And we put, like, a sign, and we said, what's up? Or something.
Dude, I remember one time, it was like my freshman year. I got on the bus, and there was this kid. He shared the same name as me. His name was also Nick. And he had a knife, and he pulled out his knife, and he was just one of those kids that was always quiet, and he just stared at his knife just the entire bus ride, and he was just looking at it.
Dude,
and I ended up telling one of the teachers, I was like, this kid is wrong. This kid was just staring at a knife. Dude,
one time in 4th grade, we were talking about, we had like the principal or something come into class and give a lecture that day. She's like, we just want to know, we found a knife in the bathroom, and I know that it could have been anyone's, not necessarily your class, it could have been the other grade, but I just want you to let you know that if you have a knife, you cannot bring it to school and you will be expelled. And I'm like sitting there, and I have a Swiss Army in my pocket, and I'm just like sitting there like vibrating. My face is turning. I'm like sweating bullets.
Dude, when I was in 4th grade, I brought my cell phone, and you thought this was so bad back then. Now everyone's got phones, but I had a little Motorola Razr, and I went up to my teacher. Her name was Miss Brown, and I was like, hey, I'm sorry. I'm like shaking. I'm so scared. I'm like, I have a cell phone in my pocket. And she was like, oh, okay.
You should have just told her you have a razor in your pocket.
No, but she was like, yeah. But she's like, okay, just give it to me and I'll give it back to you at the end of the day. I was like, okay. It was such a big deal back then.
Dude, I wasn't allowed to have a phone, but I had an iPad. I would bring my iPad to class, and it's like, you can't hide an iPad. Right? You have to set it up. It had like the little foldable stand that's also the cover, like unrolls, you know? And I would just set that shit up and just like play games. like the desks had like the inner compartment underneath.
Yeah.
It was like the perfect angle to just get your grubby little fingers in there and play tap jump or whatever the fuck. You remember that game?
Yeah.
Bloons Tower Defense. Yeah.
Or like one of the 100 shitty versions of Brick Breaker that were on like the phones.
Oh my
you
God.
Could, like, they had like some really crappy app store. It wasn't like Apple or like the Google Play Store yet, but just like the service provider.
Bro,
had games you could play.
I'm getting so many like flashbacks from my childhood. One time I had this very rotund friend, right? Very rotund. I'm talking like very big. And he invited me to his church one time, and it was like this like special like alt church where they play like, they play cool songs and they have like an electric guitar, right? One of those type places. And and I got his whole family is like large, right? And they open the doors of the van, and then they're like, "All right, Matt, get in." So I go and I sit, and I'm like, "Oh, where is he?" No, he climbs in the back like luggage, and I just feel the whole truck just like
go down.
go down, and it's like riding at a tilt. It was so sad, and I'm like, this guy's in 4th grade and he weighs 15 of me. I was like 90 pounds. Yeah. I think he's doing better now. I mean, hopefully he hasn't lost a foot yet.
Bro.
But yeah, it's crazy. There was always like 1 or 2 really fat people in school. I was one of them. I was always small. Okay, let's get into the stories. Okay, Nick. We don't have much time, but I'm going to try to anal blast these. You know who Laurie Lightfoot is, right?
No.
What you do, right? No, she's the mayor of Chicago. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She's such a meme. She's my new favorite meme. Like, this is my dad calls her
that hairline.
My dad calls her Beetlejuice because she has like a she has like a small head and she kind of has the beady eyes like Beetlejuice. But I found this clip, and it is just so funny because this reporter is just talking about how horrible it is to live in Chicago. She's just like looking at him, like just kind of confused.
Mayor Lightfoot. What I think.
Introduce yourself, sir.
Yes.
I don't think I'm familiar with you.
William Kelly. I'm with Newsmax.
Oh, she also says she only takes reporters that are not white.
Really?
Yeah, she only talks to non-white reporters.
But you didn't mention.
She's also gay.
I don't think any of your speakers here.
Look at her trembling.
She's
so
the reason
old.
why the hotels are empty. The reason why.
Okay, here he goes.
Face.
He's about to just list off reasons to not go to Chicago, and she's just like staring.
Storefronts are closed is because of fear of violent crime.
No,
there was,
sir,
if I may ask my question, it's a simple question.
question.
There's a woman, a pregnant woman was shot at a hotel across the street from here last week at 4 p.m.
Just horrible crimes.
Of course, we have this horrific Juneteenth, 50-some shootings. A young Hispanic couple pulled from their car and shot execution style. This video has gone viral. I don't think we've had any arrests in this case yet. A tourist came to Chicago and was stabbed in the back and murdered on Juneteenth here in the city of Chicago. Our police chief referred to the location of the stabbing as a homeless camp. Last time, I was born and raised in Chicago. I always considered it to be the financial district of Chicago, not a homeless camp.
Do you have a question, sir?
Yeah. So my question is, do you feel personally responsible for your rhetoric, your heated rhetoric is responsible for this off-the-charts violent crime in the city of Chicago?
So,
I think that this is all news to her. She's
Look
like,
at her. Look at her face. She's like this, bro.
She's like,
she's shaking.
This is all news to her. She's like, okay, and feel free to add to this. It's like he's like, all right, so a couple were dragged out of their car and executed, Taliban style. A tourist was in a
pregnant woman was shot across the street.
Yeah. A hype beast shopping the
we had
Supreme
about
store
50
was.
murders in one day.
Yeah, I mean, he just lists like horrible things. 15 tourists in a tour bus were actually murdered by the tour bus driver off the bridge. And it's like it sounds like Gotham. It sounds like this is Gotham. You know how in like Gotham it's like Batman is just like the only person who does anything.
Yeah.
Right? It's like but this
what's weird is so many people, like, despite this, just are like, God, I want to go to Chicago. I know so many people that are like, I've seen people, for some reason right now, there's an influx of people going to Chicago right now. And one of my coworkers is called off because he's going to Chicago. And I'm like, why?
What's
wrong
like,
with you guys?
It's like,
just like, maybe we get to see one.
Oh, could be that. The intrigue. Oh,
yeah.
Or while all the casinos are out for COVID, the only thing left is gambling with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you just got to roll the dice. You're like, I went to Chicago. Dude, they're going to start selling t-shirts that says, I survived Chicago. You know, like the I Heart New York, it's I survived a week in Chicago. I mean, that place, a Mexican family were pulled from their car and executed. Like, murder and execution style. That's wild. Also, we can't forget when she did this. She dressed up as the Rona's Destroyer. For Halloween. Here she is.
Hand her some candy.
She has a laminated Clorox picture around her neck.
That's pretty cringe.
And she is the Rona Destroyer. Laurie Lightfoot.
That's lighthearted to get you to not think about everyone getting murdered.
I mean, she is a... How does someone like that... If she can be mayor, why can't you? Like, I think Nick, right now, would be a better mayor. Like... My God, I mean, it's wild what's going on right there.
Bro,
all right.
I totally could.
Yeah, I think you could put anyone in that position, and they would at least have some sort of...
Chicago's just people, it's like, people just like flock to that for that kind of lifestyle, you know, out here in them
out here in these streets.
Yeah.
Oh God, I
like
love that trail. That commercial is so good. I love that fucking commercial, bro. Arkansas, what are you doing, dude? Out here in these streets, you know, we clean up. We've been cleaning up.
We pull in Hispanic families out of their car and murdering them.
You got to get your vaccine because you got to keep your business going, right?
We out here murdering pregnant women for gang initiation.
All right, now let's go into the next news segment. Landlord, this is Jew news, by the way. Landlord faces homelessness as tenants fall behind on rent during eviction ban. Opinions?
Let
me read this again. Landlord faces homelessness as tenants fall behind on rent during eviction ban.
So she couldn't pay her mortgage because they weren't paying rent.
This is such
and I guess the banks do the banks not
country.
Get the eviction ban? Just like actual landlords?
So because of COVID, they made a ban so that you can't evict people, right?
Right, I know, but she still got evicted.
No. She didn't rent. She probably owned her house, right? So she had to foreclose on her house, probably.
Why? That doesn't make sense.
Because the people aren't paying rent that she's living off of.
But if she owns the house,
she can't evict them. She can't go live with them. She can't evict them. So they're living in a house rent free.
Yeah, but how does she? I don't understand how this made her lose her house.
So she probably owns multiple houses. Let's see what it says. Brandy Lacassie has been waiting on rent for nearly a year. She owns 3 properties in an upstate New York, but the single mother and Air Force veteran is functionally homeless after falling on hard times herself. After notifying tenants that they had to move out so she could move in, The tenants stopped paying rent and stayed put. She said she and her daughter have been living out of her car and staying with friends. I've cried many nights, like thinking, where's my money? She said. Despite more than $23,000 in unpaid rent, LaCassie can't force her tenants out because the state and federal moratoriums on evictions, I guess, laws or rules. The federal money meant to alleviate such situations isn't making it to landlords. Nearly 90% of rental-assisted funds allocated by Congress has not been distributed, according to the Treasury Department. I don't understand how they can give my private property to somebody to live for free. I bought that property. I fixed it up with my blood, sweat, and tears. The eviction bans were meant to protect vulnerable renters during the pandemic, but some property owners say that it's become collateral. They have become collateral damage. Well, opinion?
It's fucked.
Imagine a backward society where the person who owns all the property is homeless, and the people that are literally living rent free are probably just like making money from like, you know, unemployment or some shit, right? And just not paying rent. What a backward society.
Yeah, that's fucked.
Yeah, I mean, she should have just worked harder.
Should have just not joined the army and been a fucking NASA rocket scientist. This is another example of getting punished for being ahead in life.
Mm-hmm.
You work harder and you go out of your way to do things, and then you end up on the bottom.
Yeah. Dude.
Everyone's
imagine
you know that homeless guy that looks like Jake Paul under the interstate? You see him a lot?
Oh yeah, I've seen him.
I see him a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like that guy doesn't look homeless, but the other ones always have like stumps, and some of them their signs don't even like, they're not even asking for money. It's like, need work, please help.
Like please, like literally anything. Like I'll wash your tires. Just give me money.
Yeah.
It's definitely sad, and oh my god, imagine the homeless people once they start letting people evict people. Oh, you better believe if I was this woman, the first thing I'm doing the day that they lift the eviction ban is going in there with possibly brandishing, right? And telling people to round up their families, and now you're homeless. Get a taste of it.
But like, it's fucked up because a lot, like, these
pulling
people,
them out of their house and executing them.
The entire people are like, COVID made me lose my job. But then these people get unemployment. The unemployment pays better than they were making.
Yeah, and then they're like, dude.
I know multiple people that COVID just turned into fucking bums, and like, they don't. But I maintained a job through all of it.
Yeah.
And
there was a time when I had two jobs at the same time.
They're taking advantage of it.
Dude, that's why at these restaurants they literally have signs now that say, "Sorry, the service might be bad." Dude, I went to Mojitos, a local a Mexican restaurant, and let me talk about it. Okay, one thing at a time. I got to talk about another Mexican restaurant, but I went to Mojitos. I walked in during my lunch break. They had 3 people working. All the tables were packed. There was like 3 people waiting in line. We never got greeted. I never got sat for 15 minutes. I'm just like, hey, what's going on here? People started walking out, and they're like, yeah, there's no servers. I'm like, no servers? He's like, yeah, there's just one dude and like 3 busboys. I'm like, so one dude's, this is all one dude's person. The dude behind the bar he's waiting all these people, right? It's like, yeah, COVID. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave because I have like 30 minutes left on my lunch break.
That's fucking crazy.
And all these restaurants have like, sorry, the wait might be longer, the food might take longer because we have a literal employment shortage. How about this? How about you pay your employees more money and they might stay, right? If they don't have to rely on the handouts of others through tips.
What could have happened also is like one person there got COVID and it got super spreaded. If that, because it's super contagious. If it happens to everyone, no one can go to work.
True.
I tried to super spread in my work, but I didn't have it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just for the good of the people. I wanted them to develop antibodies.
Yeah. God. Okay. Yeah. This whole COVID shit. Okay. And I call this restaurant. There's a restaurant in our local area called Abuelos, right? And I used to eat there all the time because they have great salsa, right? But I noticed the peculiar thing is they stopped making my favorite salsa because of COVID. If you can't make a salsa because of a pandemic, I think you should fight on the front lines. You should be cannon fodder. You're
so aggressive.
Nothing pisses me off than when you mess with my Mexican food. I love a good Mexican restaurant. Nothing better, right? But when you start blaming COVID on why you can't make things, look, get me back in the kitchen, give me that recipe, and I'll start chopping the vegetables myself. I'll make that salsa myself. And guess what? COVID's not stopping me from doing that. COVID didn't slap the knife out of my hand. It didn't stop the vegetables from growing. It just made you lazy, right? I'm just done with it. And can I say, I went to this new restaurant, new hip, exposed wood, exposed brick. It's the fancy restaurant. There's tons of white people there. Everyone's beautiful who serves you. The guy who served me is built like a fucking brick wall. He's like fucking massive. I was turned on. I'm not gonna lie. He comes to our table. And this restaurant is fairly new. It's called Local Lime. I think it's a little place right at the mall. So I go there, and the first thing I notice, I'm like, okay, so you have to pay for the chips and salsa at this authentic Mexican restaurant, right? That's odd, right? But so I ordered the chips and salsa. No, the first thing I say is I asked my waiter, the dude who's built. He comes to my table. And I'm like, are the salsas refillable, right? And he says no. I'm like, how much are they, or how much comes in them? And he's like, probably 3 ounces. Like, I know off the top of my head what 3 ounces looks like, right? And I'm like, okay, sure, bring it over. I almost literally just grabbed my menus and was like, all right, and just almost got up and just left. Because if you are a Mexican restaurant and you do not have refillable salsa, I'm sorry, but your business should be shut down. It should be illegal to run a business without free salsa. I had to literally ask whether the chips were refillable. If it's to the point where your customers are asking if your chips are refillable, you've got yourself a problem. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a rant, but nothing pisses me off than a bad dining experience. And you better believe that guy got a pretty rough tip. I know it's not his fault, right? But I did only tip him 15%, right?
I tipped a guy for being an absolute dick like 3 years ago, and I wish I wouldn't have.
Really?
I was with my girlfriend,
you regret
and she
that?
was like splitting a meal with her friend, and Zach Smith was there with us, and this guy, she asked if she could get the burger cut in half because she was splitting it with someone, and the waiter like made a bitch face and pulled out their silverware and just held up the knife like this and was like,
wow,
and then put it back down.
Oof. Yeah.
I'm just like, and I tipped that guy.
You tipped that guy?
I tipped that guy.
Honestly,
he's probably having a rough day, but
yeah,
he shouldn't be like that.
No wonder these people are quitting. Honestly, I don't blame them for their. I would quit and just collect unemployment if I worked.
And I don't
if I had
understand.
to work at
Maybe he's right. Why do you need the burger cut in half? Why don't you just both eat off opposite sides until you kiss?
That is true.
And let me film.
Or just rip it like a fucking mad lad and just like,
yeah,
and just like squeeze the bun and just pull it apart.
And it just looks disgusting and mutilated.
Yeah, it just has your big paw prints right on it. Fucking man hands. All right.
Matt, I've only got like 20 minutes. We need to.
All right, let's go to this OnlyFans news segment. OnlyFans has reversed its decision. Yay! Nick, how do you feel about that? OnlyFans tweeted, "Thank you everyone for making your voices heard. We have secured assurances necessary to support our diverse creator community." Yeah, you're diverse.
Suspended.
And have suspended the planned October 1st policy change. OnlyFans stands for inclusion, and we will continue to provide a home for all creators. The fact that they said, okay, and this, I gotta say, this whole OnlyFans thing, girls are like, oh my God, we're so, what are some things that they say? They're like, oh, this is body positivity. This is, they're girl bossed. They're girl bossed the fuck up because they do OnlyFans. Yeah. And it's like, no, okay, I understand where you're coming from. And it's like, oh, it's empowering because you're using your body. But, I mean, you are literally selling yourself, right? Not only yourself, but you're selling, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just, I don't like everyone being like, oh, it's body positivity. Because while that is true, it's also kind of like, everyone can't be... Everyone says they're top 1% OnlyFans. If you notice this, do you notice this when you see someone and they're like, their Instagram bio might say like 0.10% of OnlyFans. I'm like, how is everyone 0.01%? There might be 0.01% of OnlyFans that have their username, right? I think I'm 0.1% of YouTube that has the username AfroMattt, you know? The biggest channel that has the specific username AfroMattt with 3 T's. I might be the biggest. I think I am the biggest. One of one, right? That's what these people are doing.
100% of AfroMattt with 3 T's.
Yes. That's what these people are doing. It's
I haven't found another Not Nickel House. I'm actually going to put that in my...
Top 1% of people with usernames at Nickel House.
No, I'm just going to put 100% of Not Nickel House.
Okay. James Corden. Everyone, Nick, opinions on James Corden real quick. Hit me with a James Corden opinion. Make it spicy. On the rocks. Dirty. You know who James Corden is, right?
Oh my God, Matt.
You know who James Corden is? What?
I just got a text.
From who?
That I'm late. I was supposed to be in at 5.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. I'm dead ass.
Dude, look me in the eye right now and tell me you are kidding.
I'm serious.
What time are you off? 2 a.m.?
Yeah.
Ah, dude, you fucked me. You fucked me raw dog.
Dude.
You got up at 3 p.m. I called you 5 times, and then you came on at 4:30 to start?
Yeah. I'm late. I'm literally late. I have to go. I mean, we can either...
All right. I'll just do the rest of the podcast on 9/11 theory, and you can listen to it later, okay?
Dude,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. You owe me big time next time, bro. You better bring some juice. And you better not wake up at 5 p.m. next time, okay?
All right.
Fuck me raw dog, bro. My ass hurts. My ass hurts. All right.
Could put this off and we can record it. Well, you have to work.
I literally, after this goes on, after I finish recording the rest of this, I have to edit it, upload it, and then I have to be at work at 7 in the morning. And then that's when it goes live.
All right, man. Well, I got
All right. Well, when you listen to the rest of the podcast, you'll have a lot of knowledge on 9/11. Okay?
All right.
You think I'm joking.
Okay. All right. All right. Bye, Matt.
Bye. 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 All right. Oh, alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are now completely solo. And I have compiled a quite extensive list on 9/11. Now, some of you might be familiar with 9/11. I hope most of you are. And Nick, I know you're listening to this while driving. Just I want you to, you know that Jedi mind trick in episode 2, where when he goes like, I don't want to buy dipsticks or whatever, death sticks, Star Wars. This is Obi-Wan.
You want to buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
You need to go home and rethink your life. Dude. Okay, we're watching 9/11. We're watching 9/11 Truth. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, last time we were on the podcast, I mentioned a documentary by the name of 9/11 The New Pearl Harbor. It is called this because Pearl Harbor was, first off, they knew it was going to happen, when it was going to happen. Several people got alerted that it was going to happen and left. And the people left there were used to enter the war, right? It was, the fact, it shouldn't be astounding that our government's capable of that. But all of that, what I just said about Pearl Harbor, is irrefutably true because there's literal documents on it. I don't have to prove any of that. The government's just come out and said it, several of them. Now, what I do have to try to prove is that 9/11 is the new Pearl Harbor. So I've collected some interesting, albeit, I mean, I'm just going to let it. A lot of people I feel like that might be listening have several questions, right, on 9/11. And all I'm trying to get is to ask questions, right? Because if you can't ask questions about the true story, and it's almost to the point where it's like 9/11, really, that's kind of hack. It's like a your mom joke, right? It's like, oh yeah, everyone knows. But do you know? So I'm going to go over some of the facts that we have here, starting in the beginning. I watched a 5-hour documentary for you guys, pulled out what I think might be the most convincing arguments.
After the fourth plane had crashed in Pennsylvania, news was already circulating that several passengers had made calls with their cell phones from the hijacked airplanes.
We are being hijacked. We are being hijacked. Those frightening words were uttered by a passenger aboard United Flight 93 who was able to call emergency personnel on his cell phone before the plane crashed in western Pennsylvania.
It's a good-ass cell phone.
Reports of cell phone calls from at least 3 of those 4 flights. On the second flight that came out of Boston, that was the second flight of the day, and also went into one of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, there was a businessman who got off 2 cell phone calls to his father.
The CNN commentator Barbara Olson, wife of U.S. Solicitor General Ted Olson. She reportedly called her husband twice on a mobile phone to tell him her plane was being hijacked.
The problem is that in 2001, it was practically impossible to make a call with a cell phone from an airplane at cruising altitudes. The whole idea behind cellular phones is that they use low power transmitters, both to keep the cost of the units down and to preserve battery life. It is up to the receiving towers on the ground to pick up and boost their signal before they route it through the system. It is commonly thought that beyond 10,000 feet in altitude, most cell phones become useless. Passenger planes normally cruise at 30,000 feet and beyond. The editors of Popular Mechanics, however, maintain that cell phones do work from cruising airplanes, even at maximum altitudes.
David Dunbar.
With regard to the cell phones, we did what any reporter would do. We talked to experts.
in the field, and in fact cell phones do work at that altitude, up to 35,000 feet and higher. And
in 2001?
In 2001, and it might be instructive for you to talk to some of the cell phone experts.
Instead of talking to experts, Japanese television decided to take matters into their own hands. In 2003, they conducted an on-camera experiment near Ontario, Canada, to verify the actual reach of cell phones from different altitudes.
The cellular phone system used in the experiment in Canada is the one used in the United States. 3 cell phones, each from different telephone companies, were used. The experiment begins at 1,000 feet.
Hello?
Hello, I'm calling from cell phone A. 1,000 feet, what is happening for you? Sounds okay?
The results were the same with the other 2. Next, we went up to 4,000 feet. Then,
No, not on me.
Company B's phone stopped working at 4,000 feet. And when the aircraft rose to 6,000 feet, Company A's phone also became useless. At 8,000 feet, none of the 3 cell phones worked anymore.
No service on A, no service on B, no service on C.
In other words, at an altitude of 35,000 feet, cell phones would have been totally useless.
All right, so that is what we call a control test, where they had a control and they had A, B, and C, and they went through it using the scientific method. It seems like I'd like to honestly see the test now with iPhones and stuff, because I don't even think you can make a call from an airplane now. So that that is point number 1. I'm gonna just not even call these points, just questions to let you sit on. You know, just sit on my question. I do not know where my camera went. I apologize. Okay, let's do my camera. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do that. Okay. Alrighty. And we are back here. So that is question number 1. And if this isn't your cup of tea, I mean, just sit with me, sit tight, because it gets juicy. Okay, here we go. Here is question number 2.
While they sat on some of the most valuable real estate in the world, after 30 years, the Twin Towers had become obsolete. With each of the floors built as an open space of almost 1 acre in size, the rising cost of energy had made it extremely expensive to keep the buildings warm in winter and cool in summer. General maintenance was also very expensive compared to buildings from more recent years. In his 1999 book on the Twin Towers,
I just imagine like Nick and whoever's listening to this, like you're on the treadmill, you're driving around, maybe you're listening to this on your speakers, and you just drive into a McDonald's parking lot. Someone hears and they're like, "Yo, dude, that's some truth right there. That's some true ass shit."
Divided We Stand. Author Eric Darton wrote, "When the World Trade Center was bombed in February 1993, it was already passing its prime as office space, overtaken by a generation of more recent, cybernetically smart buildings with higher ceilings and greater built-in electrical capacity. To maintain the Trade Center as Class A office space commanding top rents, the Port Authority would have had to spend $800 million rebuilding its electrical, electronic communications, and cooling systems."
Okay, so essentially what he just said, it was a lot of stuff, but he said that in order to make the World Trade Center, the 2 buildings, efficient and effective, cost-effective, it would cost $800 million, which is more than it would cost to just build new ones, right? So this theory gets a little juicy, if you see where it's going. Most of the reason why it's ineffective is because of the asbestos.
Material had been used to fireproof the steel structure of the buildings and to insulate hundreds of miles of pipings for water, heating, and air conditioning. Asbestos was also present in the ceiling panels, the elevator shafts, and the vinyl tiles from office floors. From a property condition assessment of the Twin Towers dated December 2000, we read, "According to Port Authority records, a total of 7 million square feet of vinyl asbestos floor tiles were installed in the World Trade Center. By the time asbestos was banned from civil construction, the Twin Towers were nearing their completion. Initially, the asbestos was encapsulated wherever possible to prevent the particles from being inhaled. But in the 1990s, the regulations grew tighter, and every time a simple renovation was needed, the complete removal and replacement of the asbestos was also required. At the same
So the removal of the asbestos was becoming very costly, right? Anytime they had to do a renovation, they had to fix a bathroom, they had to literally like vacuum seal the wall, hire a special group to come in, and the prices were very expensive.
At the same time, because of the health risk it posed, the cost of asbestos removal and abatement had been skyrocketing. Safety procedures required the areas to be treated to be vacated in advance, hermetically sealed, and kept under negative pressure at all times to prevent particles from escaping outside.
All right. So there's that, and now part 2 of this is where it gets juicy, because it's freaky. This is some freaky shit, guys. I don't want to scare you, because this already happened, but and this is the scary part. It is happening currently, but let's just...
Reportedly, by the year 2000, the Port Authority was looking at an asbestos abatement bill of as much as $1 billion, the same money it would have cost to build a brand new tower. Back in the 90s, the Port Authority had sued the insurance companies, trying to get them to cover the cost of the asbestos removal. But in May 2001, 4 months before the terrorist attack, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey lost their 10-year-old court battle. At that point, the Port Authority was between a rock and a hard place. The Twin Towers could no longer be maintained without incurring the cost of asbestos removal, yet they could not be demolished because of the large amounts of asbestos they contained. The only remaining option was to dismantle and remove the 2 poison-filled giants one piece at a time. But the cost of such an operation would have been so astronomical that no one has ever tried to put a number on it.
All right. So that second question is, what do they gain from it if they were demolished, right? Controlled demolition. What do they gain? It is way more expensive to take them apart safely and avoid the asbestos contamination than it would be to just demolish them, right? And who gains from this, you might ask? Well, let me show you a Larry Silverstein, and I'm guessing he might be Jewish, just with that name. Nothing about it is bad, but...
Luckily for all, the stalemate was broken when a real estate tycoon named Larry Silverstein, who already owned Building 7...
He already owned Building 7, which also crashed, which also was destroyed for some reason.
...offered to purchase a 99-year lease for the Twin Towers.
76 years old, and look at him go. He walks fast, talks fast,
look at him go.
Always selling.
Silverstein seemed in a big hurry to close the deal. Even though he had been hospitalized for a car accident during the bidding operations, he asked his doctors to take him off the morphine so the deal could be finalized.
So I told the doctor, I said, kill the morphine, and I got to get my people in here, because you can't think with morphine. So they let the morphine run down. The pain was terrible, but I brought everybody together, and that's when we framed our best and final bid.
On July 24th, 2001, Larry Silverstein celebrated the acquisition of the Twin Towers with a public ceremony.
Silverstein signed the lease on the World Trade Center just 6 weeks before 9/11.
He then took out an insurance policy covering the Twin Towers for
So 6 weeks before 9/11, he takes out the lease and buys the buildings, and then buys insurance.
$2 billion in case of total destruction.
Total destruction,
Silverstein
sir.
then began spending every morning of the week in his new office in the North Tower.
And so my mornings were spent at the Trade Center, and then by noon I was back uptown.
But on September 11, luckily for him, Silverstein didn't go to work.
Oh, why not?
Even though he had already scheduled a business meeting in the North Tower, he found out...
Okay, so he scheduled a meeting on 9/11 and didn't go? Interesting.
...that his wife had made an appointment for him at the dermatologist.
Ah, the dermatologist.
11th,
Clutch.
Silverstein was scheduled to have breakfast at the restaurant at the top of the North Tower. He canceled at the last minute at the insistence of his wife, Clara, who wanted him to go see his dermatologist.
That particular morning,
this is Larry speaking.
Bless her, had made an appointment for me at the doctor. And I said, okay,
everyone who was in that
Sure.
restaurant that morning perished.
Yeah.
And then just minutes later, received a telephone call to turn on a television set and witnessed this horrendous circumstance.
This is luckiest man alive. Quite a coincidence. A life-saving coincidence. Not even metaphorically, but just literally. So that situation is odd. It's questionable. It's questionable. A man buys and not even saying anything. No assumptions made. Just a man buys 2 towers that are horrible investments. Takes out insurance, $2 billion worth of insurance for total destruction on them. Schedules a meeting, and then decides not to go on the same day that the buildings implode.
Is how, on the evening of September 11, Larry Silverstein found himself in control of some 12 million square feet of new office space to be built on some of the most valuable real estate in the world. And since the terrorist attacks had been 2 separate events, contended Silverstein, the insurance companies would have to pay him $7 billion to rebuild what he has...
Wow. Okay, so it was a good investment. $2 billion of insurance and $7 billion in return. Now, when we're talking that amount of money, we're talking lots of pockets being lined. We're talking that is generational wealth. So this definitely has this is a motivation, right? That is generational wealth. Not only for him, $1 billion will give you generation wealth for your entire bloodline, right? So he could essentially, him and his constituents, whoever, I'm not saying they pulled this off, but there's a questionable association of, when we're talking that much money, who's gaining, who's losing, who's making money, where's the money going? Lots of questions, lots of answers that we don't have, right? So that's another part. Now, part 3. This one
was broken.
Oh, okay, here we go.
When a real estate tycoon named Larry...
Okay, well, I just played that part.
Centigrade.
Okay, now this is for the science people. Now that the first 2 parts are kind of wacky, because it's kind of like, oh, Matt's kind of kooky. He's saying, oh, what a coincidence, right? Okay, this is for the science people. This is the meme, jet fuel can't melt steel beams, but this is the science to go behind that. This video might be taken down.
To indicate that pre-collapse fires were severe enough to have a significant effect on the microstructure that would have resulted in weakening of the steel structure. In other words, NIST openly admits to have no proof to support their own theory. In conclusion, the known facts are: steel melts at about 2800 degrees Fahrenheit. Softening can begin at about 1100 degrees Fahrenheit. Except for 3 isolated spots, NIST admits to have found no proof of temperatures beyond 480 degrees Fahrenheit, which is less than half the temperatures needed to seriously weaken steel. On the other hand, there is multiple evidence that the temperatures needed to seriously weaken steel were not reached for a sustained time in the Twin Towers. The first one is that a group of 16 people managed to descend through the area devastated by the impact without obviously being burned alive. One of them is Brian Clark.
And when we came to the 78...
So this is a survivor speaking. This is a survivor, and he walked through the stairwell 70 floors without being burned alive through with essentially fire that was supposed to be melting the tower to the ground, and he just walked. This is his tale.
Floor. The last layer was standing, but it was cracked, and there were flames licking up the other side of the wall like this. It wasn't a roaring inferno. I sensed that the flames were maybe starved for oxygen right there, you know, in the interior. We kept going, and we got onto the 74th floor. When we got down that far, normal conditions. The lights were on, fresh air coming up from below.
Attivissimo has maintained that these people managed to survive because in that part of the building, the stairwell runs on the side of the tower and not through the center. 18, about a...
Okay, and here is thermal camera footage from the events. So here we go.
Images shot with an infrared. Secondly, there is a series of thermographic images shot with an infrared camera showing temperatures much lower than those needed to soften steel. This is the North Tower, seen from below. It's 9:18, about a half an hour after the impact of the first plane, and the indicated temperatures do not reach the color yellow, which means they don't exceed 100 degrees centigrade or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is the South Tower, some 15 minutes after the impact of the second plane. Here too, the indicated temperatures do not exceed 212 degrees Fahrenheit. But the major problem with the sagging trusses theory is that it doesn't make any sense from a mechanical point of view. Even assuming the temperatures were high enough to make them sag to such an extent, where did these relatively thin trusses find the strength to pull and then break apart a supporting structure much larger and stronger than they were?
This only really works if you're watching it, but essentially there were these trusses that were in perpendicular, and they provide the floor, right? And the theory states that those began to sag and they sucked in, and they, like a can of soda from crushing both sides, just crushed it and collapsed it. But, I mean, he's saying essentially that those trusses were not strong enough to literally pull in together. Like, you know, Spider-Man when he's holding the freaking train back. It was not strong enough. These trusses were not strong enough to pull in an entire tower.
The phenomenon suggested by NIST is...
Okay, this one doesn't work with the audio only. So we'll go to the next one. But a little bit more science.
To do so.
A little bit more science for you guys.
Without violating at least two of the most fundamental laws of physics.
Physics.
One is Newton's third law of motion, which states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. This means that two opposing forces...
This is the one talking about the collapse style.
...will neutralize each other. In a head-on collision, the two cars absorb each other's kinetic energy and transform it into physical deformation or damage. After that, the system comes...
So on the screen, two cars just collapse each other, right? And the fronts of them crumple, and then that's the energy. The energy crumples those, and they stop, right?
Comes to a rest, as there is no more energy to be dissipated.
The top section, pushing on the bottom section, it's going to meet equal.
And this is if you guys are into the science part of it, because a lot of this is speculation, and I mean, albeit, I think, is it albeit? I think it's albeit, right? ALBEIT, albeit. This is an interesting group. It's called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. I mean, I think they have a website. Check them out. These are actual. This guy has a master's and bachelor's in physics and a master's in mathematics. David Chandler, and he is explaining what would happen with a building collapsing from the top.
Forces as it goes. Both sections are going to be demolished at the same rate. So by the time you've crushed up 15 stories below it, the top 15 stories are also going to be crushed.
So essentially, like my can theory, imagine crushing two cans on top of each other. They would both crush at the same rate instead of the top one crushing the bottom one and then you crush the top one, right? They would crush into each other because a force is being exerted on both of them. So they would crumple together, right? And then become, essentially one crumpled piece. Not how the buildings collapsed.
And so there's nothing left now to crush the rest of the building.
Mm-hmm. Something of this kind is what we should have seen.
So here we see a graphical rendition of the buildings, much like the can analogy, crumpling on each other. The top portion, I think about 15, 20 stories, would crush into about 15 to 20 stories of the bottom half, because that's all the energy it has to exert, right? Potential energy.
When the top section of the towers collapsed onto the lower one, the upper and lower sections should have mutually destroyed each other until all the energy is dissipated and the system comes to a rest. Alternatively, as shown in this experiment with 2 towers made of snow, the top section could have fallen off to the side after the initial collapse.
This is also an option where it crumples and then slides just because of gravity. So the top part doesn't. Essentially, the theory is the top part doesn't have enough weight to crush through every layer of the whole thing. It's not like there's not more force being applied to it every level. It only has so much energy, so it would go through half. Or go through whatever and then slide off or just stop.
What could not have happened is this.
A little tiny chunk of the building can't possibly fall and
this
crush
is the scientist
entire
again.
Structure below it.
Yeah.
This is such a simple, fundamental concept that architects and engineers were astonished in seeing it totally ignored by NIST.
This is high school physics.
Here's another scientist. This is another architect or engineer for 9/11 Truth. He's explaining this is just a fundamental truth.
Whole society is being led to believe that these fundamental laws
he is
of
a
physics, hard science,
civil engineer.
Don't apply anymore.
But even if we assume that the top section of the tower had enough...
And here's actual footage. And in the footage, the top part crumples in and just keeps on pushing through the entire thing as if there's nothing there to stop it.
Potential energy to destroy the rest of the structure below, it could not have done so at the speed it did, which was near freefall speed.
And this is also interesting. Freefall speed.
An even more important principle in physics, known as the law of momentum conservation. This law states that the total energy within an isolated system must always remain the same. As we have seen, the energy can be transformed within the system, from motion to physical deformation. But for the deformation to begin, the velocity must decrease in order for one kind of energy to be transformed into the other. No new energy can be added to the system. One particular example of momentum conservation is freefall. Freefall happens when the only force applied on an object is gravity. This means that all the potential energy contained by the object is converted into vertical motion. As soon as the falling object hits an obstacle and breakage occurs, the speed must decrease because some of its energy needs now to be converted into physical breakage. It takes energy to break things apart, and that energy must come from within the system. Thus, the falling rock cannot keep falling at free fall speed and break apart at the same time because it doesn't have enough energy to do both. Let's go now to the Twin Towers and ask a simple question. Assuming that the top section on the left...
Okay, so this image is, it has a crane holding up just the top portion of a tower, and on one side there's nothing below it, and on the other side there is the rest of the tower below it.
Contains enough potential energy to destroy the rest of the tower, and assuming we dropped both upper sections at the same time, which one would hit the ground first? It would be the second, of course.
The one with nothing
As
in
it
the way.
finds no obstacles in its path, the section on the right would quickly accelerate to free fall speed and maintain it all the way to the ground. The section on the left instead needs to use some of its energy to destroy the structure below, so it could never achieve free fall speed. In the case of the Twin Towers,
I feel like I'm Bill Nye the
both
Science
upper
Guy,
sections
but
fell with an acceleration close to free fall.
So now he's playing clips of both towers falling, and he has a timer between it, and he's measuring how fast it would take to fall.
Speed, as if their path had been practically free from obstacles. It took each tower between 10 and 12 seconds to collapse to the ground, while an absolute free fall time would have been 9.2 seconds. In other words, both upper sections of the towers found enough energy to destroy 80,000 tons of healthy structure below, while accelerating to near free fall speed. This is, as we have said, absolutely impossible by gravity alone. The law of momentum conservation won't allow it.
A building cannot do free
Here is another structural engineer
with a huge steel structural system in place to support it.
The Twin Towers could not have come straight down.
This is a structural engineer.
Resistance of 80,000 tons of structural steel at the speed of practically free fall. That just would not happen.
If in fact it actually hit and made an impact, it was effectively crushing anything, pushing hard on this core structure below it, the core structure is going to push back equally hard. And that's what's going to cause the top section of the building to slow down.
As energy is drained away from the system to deform those members, it would slow down the descending mass and cause a descent at less than free fall speed.
There is
So that's this is all a preschooler knows this information.
only one way for those buildings to have collapsed at the speed they did.
The buildings fall at a speed which can only occur if the structure has been removed, the vertical structure.
The same Shyam Sunder from NIST has acknowledged that free fall can only be achieved with the absence of a structure below.
Free fall time would be an object that has no structural components below it.
But what could have removed the supporting structure below, since the falling section didn't have any extra energy to do so?
The fact that it's coming down at free fall says all of the energy is being used to just make it go straight down, which means it's coming down through itself and not breaking up the building as it goes. Something else has to be clearing the way.
There is only one known way to allow that kind of acceleration while removing the supporting structure.
A building cannot do free fall without it being blown up. That's the only way it could come down at free fall.
The only way that a building can accelerate as it collapses is
more
by
engineers
having
and architects,
pre-engineered, precisely timed, and precisely placed explosives. In other words, controlled demolition.
Since a near free fall...
All right, and one more.
What's an explosion sound like? Most people don't know because most people have never heard one. So any sharp, loud bang, that's probably an explosion.
The fact is, most of the explosions were reported by firefighters and policemen, and no one knows how to recognize an explosion in a burning building better than they do.
As we were getting our gear on and making our way to the stairway, there was a heavy-duty explosion. Everybody just started
I don't know if I can show this. His face is pretty bloody.
running for the door. Everybody was trapped.
New York's bravest never had a chance.
We really never even got to that close to the building. An explosion blew and it knocked everybody over.
The whole time you're hearing boom, 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 boom. So I think I know an explosion when I hear it.
In August 2005, the New York Times published 12,000 pages of oral histories rendered in the voices of 503 firefighters and emergency personnel who were present at the Trade Center on September 11. Over 100 of them, 1/5 of the total, has reported explosions in the buildings prior or during the collapses. Regular citizens also seem quite capable of telling an explosion from a simple object falling to the ground.
Something, either they blew the lobby up or something, because it blew the glass out of the doors and knocked us all down, and I got smoke and everything on me. I just feel a little shook up because I got blasted, so.
Before proceeding, one thing should be known about controlled demolitions. Just like the Twin Towers, most modern buildings are built with a high redundancy factor in terms of structural strength. For this reason, a series of preliminary explosions is normally needed in controlled demolitions to weaken the structure before the actual collapse can be induced.
This is actually a pretty cool job, though. Very, very cool, actually. It's like fireworks.
Obviously, in the case of the Twin Towers, it would not have been possible to set off the preliminary explosions all at once, just before the collapse. To make them less noticeable, it would have been wise to set them off at separate intervals, any time between the impacts of the planes and the collapse of the towers. For this reason, it's important to keep in mind the exact chronology of the events. 8:46, first impact into the North Tower. 9:03, second impact into the South Tower. 9:59, collapse of the South Tower. 10:28, collapse of the North Tower. 5:20 in the afternoon, collapse of Building 7.
Okay, yeah, that's a little weird. It's like 8 hours later. So at 10 and then at 5, the Building 7 fell. It's like you forgot.
Witnesses normally call first explosion the one that came with the impact of the planes, while they call secondary explosions all those that took place in separate moments between the impacts of the planes and the collapse of the two towers.
We got that first secondary explosion really got us spooked because we were in the building.
Then there was some secondary explosions and then subsequent collapses.
We've heard reports of secondary explosions after the aircraft impacted.
According to several witnesses, there was a secondary explosion that took place in the basement of the North Tower just before the plane hit the building.
At 8:30, he says he was headed to level B4 in Tower 1, 4 stories below ground.
I go downstairs, the foreman tells me to go to remove the containers. As I'm walking by the main freight car of the building, in the corridor, that's when I got blown. I mean, the impact of the explosion, of whatever happened, it threw me to the floor.
Morelli then remembers a second explosion.
His name is Morelli.
I was racing, I was going towards the bathroom. All of a sudden,
I was going towards the bathroom.
I opened the door, I didn't know it was a
Said,
bathroom.
walk
And
in
all of a
here.
sudden, a big impact happened again. And all the ceiling tile was falling down, the light fixtures were falling.
According to the 9/11 Commission, it was the jet fuel pouring down the elevator shafts that caused the explosion in the basement. From the final report we read, a jet fuel fireball erupted upon impact and shot down at least one bank of elevators. The fireball exploded onto numerous lower floors, including the B4 level, 4 stories below the ground. But the witnesses described an explosion that took place in the basement before the impact of the plane.
Very strong. Boom! An explosion so hard that pushed us upwards. Upwards. And it came from the basement between the B2 level and the B3 level. And at that moment, I thought it was the mechanical room where they have all the pumps and the generators for the building, that maybe a generator just blew up on the basement. Now, 20 years in the building, you know something that comes from the bottom and something that comes from the top. And when I went to verbalize that it was a generator, we hear, boom, all the way on the top, the impact of the plane on the top. 2 different events, 2 different times.
There are others who remember several explosions after the one from below.
It came from, I believe, at first we believed that it came from the mechanical room. Then we heard a series of other explosions that sounded up on the above levels of the building.
I was in the B4
And these people are still, some of these guys, these people are in the hospital. They have no reason to lie. They're just retelling events, right? This is like right after it happened. Like, it's not like they're coming out in 2021 and they're like, oh yeah, I was there. I want publicity. I was there. Yeah, there was explosions. No, these people are in the hospital currently just telling what they saw.
On my way, I heard a bomb. So I says, probably a transformer.
These guys are in the hospital right now.
I stepped back,
on hospital beds.
And I started towards the door again. And there come a big blast with a big ball of fire.
The 2 separate explosions were recorded at a distance of about 9 seconds from each other during a business meeting that was taking place in a building nearby, One Liberty Plaza.
Sound like something crashed.
When faced with this precise question,
that's
the
interesting.
editors of Popular
That gave me
Mechanics
chills.
chose not to answer it and fell back on the generic explanation of the jet fuel in the elevator shafts.
Ask what your guys' explanation is for Willie Rodriguez's testimony that he heard, experienced, and his coworkers were actually burned by an explosion in the basement of the North Tower prior to the plane hitting, and this has been verified by at least 20 different eyewitnesses.
Jim Meggs of Popular Mechanics.
When the planes struck the buildings, they penetrated the internal core. Jet fuel poured down stairwells and elevator shafts, setting off secondary explosions. Not to mention the horrific impact of these fully loaded planes hitting the structure.
I'm not even sure how that theory makes sense. Even if you had a fireball of jet fuel, how does that cause secondary explosives? All right. Yeah. Let's watch some TikToks. Oh God. Okay. Oh God. This is so good. This is funny. It's funny. You guys gotta admit. It's a solid meme.
Katie, I hear you're turning 20 today. You have a beautiful day.
You have a beautiful
day. My big-breasted, beautiful mommy milkers.
Oh.
I love you. The king loves my queen above 18. You have a beautiful day, and I will talk to you soon. If you need anything, you let me know.
Will do.
I love you, my queen. Have a good day. Enjoy your day.
What other
It's your
podcast does
birthday.
this? What other podcast can go directly from 9/11 Truth to Queens Above 18?
Get them feet on the ground and take off running. Have a good day. Bye, baby.
Bye, baby. All right, let's watch one more because we're already running a little bit.
Does anybody
long.
know when the pain stops? When it stops hurting? Because I don't know how much more of this I can take. I really can't.
Oh, this is just sad. I don't know why I grabbed that. What is this one? Okay. Okay, this one's funny.
So we're currently in the elevator 49. So we're currently in the...
Listen in the background of this one. She's rotund.
So we're currently in the elevator 49.
Weightlifting exceeded.
I'm scared of heights, but got all our stuff. My duffel bag broke, so I'm not very happy
She's
about
in
that.
an elevator.
Oh my god, ninth floor. Not very happy about that. I'm kind of scared of heights, but got all our stuff. My duffel bag broke.
I've never heard it. I've been in an elevator with like 6 or 7 people. I've never heard an elevator ever say weight limit exceeded. That being said, I was on an elevator one time where like we were going halfway up, and I think it was me. Oh, what were we doing? It was me and a few friends, and we were staying at this place. I think it was for like maybe a tennis tournament or something. We were staying at this place. Pretty good spot, pretty good hotel. I mean, not the best, but it was all right. We were going up it. We had all our stuff. We had just checked in. We're going up. Our hotel room was probably on the 8th floor. We got up and we heard like a clang, like someone had dropped a wrench or something, right? And then you know, like when you're going on an elevator and you feel your stomach like stop. I felt that, right? And I'm like, oh shit, we're not moving. And then like I look up, and right up there on the top right hand corner of the elevator, like where the numbers is, it said, "Thank you for listening."